way doing the thing. And I think there's a concern about like not only using up your tokens, which can get expensive, but also just in terms of memory consumption and energy consumption that is unnecessary. So batch processing, cleaning up before you actually send things there. There's a lot of tools right now, for example, cropping up that allows you to upload videos and give you like a 5-hour video and give you like a 20-minute thing. Nice to have, but at the same time, oh my God, how much energy is being wasted that way. So it feels like we're in a world where we just think, oh, just throw it at the machine. But let's think about how much it actually costs with that one. There's a saying going around that data is much more important than the model. Is that really that much of a differentiator in a RAG or multimodal world? And also the other problem is like generated code or code that comes back from an LLM could contain PII or could contain inappropriate content. How can we work around? How can we make sure that an LLM doesn't give us things back that we should not know about? I know there's like thousands of hidden private GitHub repos were just indexed and thrown out by Microsoft's Copilot. So how can we work around these issues? So is data really more important than the model, and what can we do to clean up the data before it comes back?
Right. So first of all, I want to highlight this acronym GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So obviously, if LLMs have been fed up with lots of garbage stuff, or not necessarily garbage, but stuff that is not relevant for the context, then maybe it can be seen on the output as well. I think that most foundation model providers have been spending a lot of time cleaning and improving the data sets on which they work on and train the models. So hopefully, I hope the input data, at least during the training, is cleaner, compared to maybe the first few iterations. There's that. Then when you implement also things like RAG, you have to pay attention to only give the results that matter and that are, like multi-tenant versus single-tenant kind of scenarios. And you should filter the data just for one customer. So you only put in the context of the LLM just the information for that customer. There's that. What else? And I would also mention things like, as for example, you mentioned about PII information. You can also wrap the LLM calls with access to APIs that do PII redaction, for example. So, for example, on Google Cloud, there's a service. What is it called? It was called data loss prevention before, but there's a new name. I forget what it is, or new acronym. But you can say, okay, here's the input from the customer. I'll redact everything so that when you send stuff to the LLM, there's gonna be like a black box over the email address or something, or a social security number. And then in output, you can do the same thing. So it's also things like guardrails to avoid people trying to derail the conversation and encourage the LLM to give information that it's not supposed to give. So it's really about the integration of all this, and you have to pay attention and put good security principles in place, etc. So it's a lot of like the what is it called, CSRF protections that you put in place for your HTML forms, etc. That's the kind of things you have to pay attention to if you don't want to fall into those traps, basically. Yeah.
So another thing that a lot of people are throwing around right now is the rise of the agentic web. Mette, what is your take on that one? What is it actually, and why is it such a differentiator?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I don't know. It's really like it's such an overloaded term that it feels like any LLM that does something ends up being called agentic, right? So I don't really have like a good answer, like what is agentic. But I guess in the future we'll see a web where we don't just search for information randomly, like in random websites, but instead we have these agents that kind of get the information for us, and then they also do act on it, like they do something for us. So it's more So we just kick off a process basically, and then the agents kind of do the rest. I mean, that's how I see it. And what it means, I mean, as a user, I think I'm excited about it if it works. So that's like a big if. Like if it does the work and gives me the relevant information, and then goes ahead and, let's say, like if I'm looking for a hotel, it goes ahead and books the hotel for me and then sends me an email. And if it all works, great. But we have to get there, right? So as a user, I'm excited. As a developer, it's going to be a whole different world, basically. Like, how do you write these agents? How is there going to be an agent marketplace somewhere where I just install these agents? And
we tried that with models, right? And that didn't work out. Like we said, like, oh, there's going to be a model marketplace and everybody can train their own models and sell it to people like Amazon and Google, and that didn't work out. So that the marketplace is always the first thing, like, oh, cool, we can monetize that. But like then it not growing is an interesting bit. The interesting thing about what I see about the agentic news, when people say, like, get more excited, the more actually they can access. So like, oh, it can access your camera, it can actually simulate your voice, it can do a voice call that a hotel wouldn't know that it's not a person, it can access your machine and actually install npm packages randomly. This is like a malware's wet dream, like, do you think we're giving these things too much power and we're doing it just for the sake of like more convenience? What do you think, Guillaume, is like, do we need to find a middle ground?
I think that all these agents that are coming up, they have to keep security aspects in mind, and the way, so like installing packages and such, I wouldn't use such agents myself, for example. Now, I don't think providers will come up with such an approach. Rather, that they would give you a sandbox on which things could be installed, but they won't let agents actually mess up with your environment. It wouldn't be responsible from those agent providers. So again, security concerns should be top of mind, and it should be done in a way that enables rather than enable new scenarios for sure, but in a sandboxed kind of way. All right.
Another thing that bugs me is that everybody now is super excited about, like, there's headlines, oh, ChatGPT now has a native iOS app. And you're like, well, amazing. Like, we had PWAs and stuff like that for ages. I could turn anything into an app. And why would I want like 50 different chatbots on my machine? It feels like going back to when we had like ICQ, Skype, Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, and then we use things like Trillium or Adium to actually have one thing that has them all. So do you think in the future that maybe the operating system of mobile devices or even on desktop devices will be a place to host all these different engines that do things differently from us? Do you think the packaging to sell one product with a model inside is just too convenient?
I mean, companies, they like to have their own things, right? So I don't see, for example, like an OS from one company having the model or another company like in a native kind of way. Obviously, they're going to want their own models. So I think that will stay because we have companies. But at the same time, I also think that models are almost like implementation detail. I think they will be at some point where, just like I type into a website and then the website opens, but under the covers, there's all these networks, right, that make that happen. But as a user, I don't care, right? Like, I just type and I get the information. So I think similar to that, like the models will be like that in the background, like getting me stuff, telling me stuff. But what's that model? Who is it? Where it comes from? I think that as a user, I wouldn't care about that. I think that's the future that we're gonna have. And I also see models like being embedded like everywhere. Like, so it would be like the same model probably on your desktop, and then maybe you have your phone, same thing. Then maybe you turn on your TV. Like, so I see this like, one model that knows everything about you across different mediums, and then you just work with the same thing. Like, that's how I envision, like, where like there's this thing I talk to and it just knows everything about me and then it helps me wherever I am. So that's where I think we'll be, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
But I think with generative AI, I think that the real success will be not with chatbots everywhere and all sorts of chatbots that we have to install, but making LLMs somewhat seamless and transparent so that the overall user experience is improved, because everything is smart everywhere, pre-filled forms and all that kind of stuff. And the LLM becomes kind of invisible ultimately once it's integrated correctly into the various apps that we use on an everyday basis. Whether it's your word processor, whether it's I don't know, your coding assistant, etc. It has to be about the seamless integration and transparency, rather than being about X apps that you need to install to get your job done.
I was going to say, like, it always boils down to like user experience in the end. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be like, once the models are pretty much like the same, like give or take, then I think who's going to be successful is like who creates like the best experiences for the users, so that they don't have to be frustrated with the technology.
I think we have that in the photo space. I mean, like when I've got a Pixel phone since day one, and it's like at a certain time, the amount of lenses and the amount of like sensors in there were not that important anymore, because none of the pictures that you took is actually the picture that it recorded. It will be cleaned up automatically. It will be just denoised. There's all kind of stuff happening. So the model on the device that actually changes those images while you're taking them or right after you've taken them gives you a different experience. Much like, but I mean, of course, like people who are going for the purist approach would be saying that that's horrible, because it's like I never take anything. But then again, I guess if you nowadays press the brake in your car, you're not actually connected to the brakes any longer. There's a few computers in between there as well. We've been in this world for quite some time. Like, what is one thing that you see people do wrong when implementing AI in their products that drives you nuts? Mette, what do you want people to stop doing?
Oh God, like I have a story on this. So last December I was in Asia and I had a flight, and then I had to change the flight. But the airline, I won't name which one, maybe I should name them, but anyway, they had a chatbot, and there was no way, like the chatbot was quite helpful. Like it would pull up my information and tell me when my flight is and all that. But for changing it, it was like unchangeable fare, but it wouldn't tell me that. And I just went in circles, like multiple days, like trying to get past this chatbot and talk to someone just to verify it. But I just couldn't find it, and it was so frustrating, because I think it's like one of those cases where technology is being used, and I think it does help up to a certain extent. But at some point, like you need to get people involved. So there has to be a path to that. You can't just expect AI to do things, and maybe the airline saved a lot of cost because of this, but then they also frustrated a lot of people like me. So next time I book a flight, I will think about this, because I know that I won't be able to change the flight, so make sure there's a path to people. I think that's what I would say.
It's a bit like these telephone systems when you were asked to press 1, 2, 3 to go to that menu and that menu. The first ones, when you always pressed a number that didn't exist, that got you directly to a person, because the system was basically saying, okay, that person's too dumb to find the 3 on the telephone or something. But sadly enough, nowadays, it just kick you out. I mean, HP just announced that they put a 15-minute break in the telephone calls for people because they just don't want to talk to them. In England, there's this, we're going to have those people on Coffee with Developers soon. They made this AI granny that basically spammers or fishers, when they actually start calling, they actually talk to a woman that doesn't exist and waste their time. So I think that's a very, very cool, like, kind of a physical honeypot for like spammers, and that was really interesting to see. So to end, Guillaume, what is one thing that you think everybody learning AI should get their head around? Like, where do you get started to actually be not only a victim, as you said, like that you're feeling you're falling behind and you're feeling left out, but what is one thing that is the best like return for your investment as a mental person, like to start thinking about AI?
That's a great question. I mean, there's lots of interesting resources on the web or on books that may be interesting for people to read about, to better understand the the technology that's involved, how it's working under the hood. So especially, I mean, if you're curious, there's really lots of material on that. So I would just encourage people to follow maybe some AI influencers here and there, or to try to, or there's a newsletter that I'm subscribed to. What is it called? Like TLDR on generative AI or something like this. Like every day they share the latest news, and it's a good way to feel for what's going on, what are the latest developments, what are the latest trends, and then you don't have to go very deep through all the articles and papers that are published by researchers, but at least getting a sense of what things are happening, in the field is good to try to portray, or to not forecast, but to imagine the places, or maybe the new features where that your application could benefit from by using LLMs in a way or another. So it's hard to find good sources, but there are some interesting newsletters maybe that people can follow to get up to speed with what's going on.
It's pretty cool that something as old as feeds and newsletters are still the best place to find things. Because when you said AI influencers, I started flinching, because like a lot of people were VR experts, and then next morning they were AI influencers on LinkedIn. That seemed to be the new cool thing to do. And a lot of it is like marketing and connecting that from the other. Maybe we need an agent to work through these things for us. So. Exactly. But then again, I mean, I'm just looking through all the the descriptions for our conference coming up in July. So we had like over 2,500 submissions, and I have to go through them. And the amount of like presentations that you see have been, the call for paper have been done by ChatGPT, because nobody speaks like that. Don't do that. Don't hide behind and technology and sell it as you, because it's you on stage at the end, and I want to see you there. And I guess with that, I'm looking forward to seeing what next from you, and hopefully we'll see you soon at our event as well. Maybe there's a chance. And thanks very much for this. So that was fun. I hope you had fun too. So definitely. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.